All right, ladies and gentlemen, NFL Week 3 officially in the books. Let me make sure audio sounding okay. Make sure we're all good here. I'm using a mixer this time around, first time. Just want to make sure everybody can hear me. Live on Twitter, live on YouTube, or live on X. Okay, yep, we're good. A little laggy, but hopefully that kind of solves itself out. What I'll do is I wish there was a way pop out chat. Let's see if I can do that without. Oh, nice. Okay. So I can, if you're watching on X, I can see the chat. If you're watching on YouTube, I should be able to see the chat. Let me pull that up. Yeah, we're getting a little grainy, but hopefully that helped a little bit. We'll see. I'll keep an eye on it. Um, in this episode, in this show, we are going to recap the NFL Week 3 action. This is the first time that all of the games have been done when we do this show. Normally, I do this show on Monday mornings, but we recorded our NFL recap yesterday, so I pushed this back one. If you watch the recap, we covered most of the talking points that I'm going to hit here. There are a few little extra snippets. This is a little more Dylan. This is a little more Dylan's takeaways from the game rather than the whole show, which is not a slam on the show or anything, but that's what this is. Things that I pull away, I will show my Wilkerson ratings, and after that, we will get into some early bets for Week 4. There's some decent matchups coming up, so we will jump right into the recaps of this week, starting with Thursday Night Football. If you're new to this, there's some games I kind of just skip through. Like Thursday Night Football between the Patriots and the Jets, I think what we saw, it doesn't really need much divulging. We saw Drake May take his first snaps. He admitted that he was a little nervous stepping in there. His decision making wasn't great, and rightfully so. You know, making your first appearance in the NFL. The Jets and that Jets offense, Aaron Rodgers looked more like what we expected from the Jets offense coming into the year. The first two showings against the Bears and the Titans, it wasn't great. But now they're looking, I'm sorry, not the Bears, the 49ers. The 49ers and the Titans, it didn't look great, but now they've got humming. Aaron Rodgers, one of the two quarterbacks in the NFL that does not have a turnover-worthy play to this point. The Patriots win 24-3 in a convincing win. We have the Giants and the Browns. The Giants win 21-15. This is a concern for Browns fans, right? This defense was the one unit that you could hang your hat on and say, hey, even if the offense isn't that great, even if we don't establish the run or Deshaun Watson looks like a shell of himself, this defense is going to keep us in games. And they let this Giants offense that is not thought of to be very good scored 21 points. This was the Keon Coleman coming out part, or I'm sorry, not Keon Coleman. This is the Malik Neighbors coming out party. 2 touchdowns, 8 receptions, 78 yards. If we could say one thing about the Browns, the offensive line failed Deshaun Watson a little bit. He took 8 sacks, and it's just tough to get anything going when you're spending your whole Sunday afternoon on the ground, right? And that's exactly what Deshaun Watson was subject to. Both teams lost 2 fumbles. If you're a Giants fan, you have to at least be a little excited about what you see from this offense. You know, the Browns defense is good, and you put up 21 points. That I don't think anybody would have expected that coming into this game. So Giants win 21-15 there. Working our way down, we'll go Colts Bears. Anthony Richardson put on an Anthony Richardson-esque day. Great throws when he was throwing over 20 yards down the field, but when he was throwing less than that, he was less than stellar. We see both of these quarterbacks. Sorry, I gotta fix the hair here. Finally getting a haircut Thursday, so that won't be a problem anymore. Anthony Richardson, we had a conversation on this week's recap show. If you haven't seen it, go check it out. It's in the X post below this. If you're on YouTube, just go search our channel about mobile quarterbacks versus pocket passers. And Anthony Richardson is a great example of a quarterback that has the mobile upside, but it might be to his detriment. Like if you have to make, too many decisions, you're more likely to make the wrong one. And if you don't have to make the decisions, then you don't subject yourself to making the wrong ones. And it's Anthony Richardson's a perfect example of this. We see 2 interceptions. Williams had 2 interceptions too, and all of the interceptions in this game were bad. Like Richardson, it was to start the second half, he just completely missed a guy, like overthrew him by 5 yards at least. Jonathan Taylor had a huge game. I don't think we expected anything else. As long as he stays healthy, the run game will be consistent. DeAndre Swift, we're going to have a serious talk about for you Bears fans. This is, why do you want this guy being the every down back? Or maybe you don't, right? Maybe you don't want this guy being the every down back, and they're just doing it because they think it's the best. But 13 carries, 20 yards. He's had poor showings so far. I think you have to have a serious conversation about making Rashawn Johnson or Khalil Herbert the every down back, and then maybe bringing in Swift for like third down packages, goal line packages. I don't know. But offense not looking great for Chicago. They lose to the Colts 21-16. Offensive line, got to protect your guy. I will never understand why teams will go get a quarterback in the early rounds of the draft and then not have an offensive line to protect them. We saw it with Bryce Young last year. We're seeing it with Williams in real time. Trouble here for the Bears offense. Eagles Saints. Listen, I am the first guy, hand up, first guy that will crap on the Eagles. I love crapping on the Eagles. Eagles fans have treated me so poorly since I came out and said, hey, your 10-1 and 11-1 football team might not be that great, right? And they came out, we find ways to win games. Listen, hand up, I might be buying back in on the Eagles. This is like, they were underdogs to the Saints, right? The Saints have 2 impressive wins. The Eagles were 3-point underdogs to the Saints, and they end up winning 15-12. Now, did it look great? No. Did Jalen Hurts look great? No. Lost fumble, you have interception. But the Eagles dominated this game. Nearly 3 more yards per play than the Saints. They were extremely efficient. Goddard, 170 yards. He had a huge game. We'll get to it, but it might be time to buy back in on the Eagles. I don't like their head coach. I think he's a bad head coach, but you're getting some discounts on the Eagles here that I don't know if we can pass up. Ravens Cowboys. I'm pushing the panic button on the Ravens. I understand they won this game. I understand it was 28-25. They beat the Cowboys. I am pushing the panic button on the Ravens. And before I get to why I'm doing that, let's go over this game real quick. The Ravens, nearly 2 more yards per play. Their run defense was stout. Now, you could argue that the Cowboys' rush attack is not great, and I think you have a fair point there. Only 51 rush yards for the Cowboys. Ravens penalized all throughout, 13 penalties, 105 penalty yards. Why I'm pushing the panic button on the Ravens? They have a tough time closing out games. And this isn't a new thing for Baltimore. You look last year, they got outscored 14-0 in the fourth quarter against Pittsburgh. They lose that game 17-10. They get outscored 16-6 in the second half versus Tennessee last year. Outscored 24-14 in the second half versus Cleveland last year. They lose that game. And they get outscored 10-3 in the second half of their other Pittsburgh game where they end up losing. I even think if we go back to the year before, it's the same thing, right? The Ravens have issues closing out games, and it's their defense. It's not their offense. The Lamar Jackson put this game on ice against the Cowboys with that quarterback keeper. The defense can't do it. And this defensive unit they have this year, I would argue, is less talented than the units they've had the last 2 years. You also lose your stud defensive coordinator who's doing awesome things in Seattle. One team that I'm pushing the panic button on, Baltimore Ravens. You got to figure out how to put these games away. And I understand they won, but they let the Cowboys right back in this. And this, at the end of the first half, wasn't even a game, right? Now, Ravens fans, if you're watching this clip, if you're watching this live stream, you might be saying, oh, Dylan, hey, just wait. Just wait till we get to the picks, okay? Because I might be taking the Ravens against the Bills. Well, just hold off for a second. You have Detroit, Arizona. Detroit Lions win 20-13. Goff had 2 touchdowns, 1 interception, 199 passing yards. He did have that rush that put the game on ice at the end. Montgomery. This might be the best running back situation in all of professional football. You have David Montgomery, who's the big boy back, run it between the tackles. He's going to run it down your throat. And then you have Jahmyr Gibbs, who's more of the lateral threat, can run outside of the tackles. I would argue better in open space than David Montgomery, but that 1-2 punch, it's like at Michigan, the University of Michigan. You had Donovan Edwards and Blake Corum last year. This year, not so much, but Lions win by a touchdown. Lions nearly 100 more total yards and over 100 more rush yards. They were much more efficient at running the ball than Arizona was, and it was really the Lions' defense that was the story of this game. They got stops when they needed to. The Detroit offense had opportunities to put this game on ice 3 or 4 times in the second half, and they just never did. They never scored the touchdown. They never scored the points to do that. It took that Goff rush for a first down, and it really slowed it down there. So Detroit wins 20-13. San Francisco 49ers and the Los Angeles Rams. The 49ers lose 24-27 after going up 14-0. It might have been more. I can't remember off the top of my head. Purdy had a great game. You can't put this on him. Almost 300 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns. 49ers outgained the Rams by 129 yards. You had the Rams fake punt on the 4th down that converted. And then you had the 49ers missing a field goal that resulted in a touchdown for the Rams. I think the biggest takeaway here from this game, number one, a touchdown. McVay and Stafford is a touchdown dog in a home divisional game. And I understand. You can say, well, it's not really a home divisional game because the stands were all 49ers. I don't care. It's just the spot. Like that, being a home divisional dog is a great spot to be in. And if you watched the show last week, we gave out Rams plus 7.5. It got down to 6, and then they end up winning outright, right? Takeaway from this game, I am not worried about the 49ers. I think that the 49ers could have won this game. Is Jake Moody going to be missing field goals left and right? No. Is every team going to do a fake punt on 4th down? No. This is just what you get when you face a Rams team with a veteran quarterback like Stafford and a good coach like McVay. That is what this comes down to. The Rams' experience at coach and quarterback made it happen. You had Denard Robinson. You had Tutu Atwell make big plays when it mattered. And, both these teams were decimated. You can't sit here and say, oh, well, the 49ers were missing their key guys. The Rams were missing their key guys as well. So, love what I saw from the Rams there, but I'm also not concerned about the 49ers. If this tells you anything, the Rams are capable of keeping their composure and making the most of big moments because of their head coach and because of their quarterback. Sunday Night Football, Falcons-Chiefs. We might need to have a conversation. We might need to have a conversation about Kirk Cousins. He looked good against a good Chiefs defense, right? This is a Chiefs defense that is a great unit. Maybe not their best unit in the last couple years, but definitely a good unit. Kirk made some great throws. I think this game ultimately, that no defensive pass interference on Pitts in the end zone is a problem. That was definitely pass interference, and I understand that this is very much hindsight is 2020, a way of looking at this, but the Falcons are driving in the 4th quarter. They go for it on 4th down. They don't get it. The Chiefs get the ball back. They have to punt. And now the Falcons are stuck in a situation where they have to score a touchdown to go up when they could have just kicked the field goal that second to last drive, and they're not in a situation to where they have to score a touchdown. And I understand that decision making. It's much easier to say this after the fact, but it's really hard to ignore the fact that if they would have just kicked a field goal on that second to last drive, the Falcons, that is, they would have only needed a field goal to go up in that game. Now, you could argue, well, if they go up, the Chiefs just go and kick a game-winning field goal as well. And I'd say, okay, that's fair. You're right. The Chiefs have a history of doing that. But tough to swallow for the Falcons. I still think the Falcons are a great team. The Chiefs are 3-0. Falcons 1-2. The Falcons have a game coming up against the Saints. Chiefs 6-14 on 3rd down. The Falcons 2-9. That's a huge difference there. If you can convert on 3rd down nearly 50% of the time and you keep your opponent converting only 20% of the time, yeah, that's going to be pretty big. Let me go through, see if there are any games I didn't talk about. Texans Vikings, that was a great one. Sam Darnold coming out party. Once the Texans got down in this game, they didn't have a rush attack. They were very one-dimensional, and that was a huge problem. If the Texans don't have this run threat, I think that they're going to put Stroud in some sticky situations. It's not going to look great. Stroud had 2 interceptions, 1 touchdown, 219 total yards. And again, that is they didn't have their starting running back, Joe Mixon. And the Vikings, on the flip side, were very effective at running the football. It's either Aaron Jones or Ty Chandler week in and week out that have these big games. And Darnold he's sharing the love. He's spreading the wealth. He's letting Justin Jefferson has a touchdown reception. Johnny Munt has a touchdown reception. Naylor has a touchdown reception. Aaron Jones has a touchdown reception. If you're wearing purple, you're getting a touchdown. It's just simple as that under Kevin O'Connell and Sam Darnold. O'Connell has turned Darnold into somebody we haven't seen in a while. And we're going to have a serious talk about the Vikings in this division. The Lions' offense has not looked like it has in years past. Last year, 2 years ago. And the Vikings have looked like that team so far. I think the biggest takeaway from this game is if you're playing Houston, take away the run threat, make them one-dimensional, and defend against the pass. Like, we saw it early when Stroud got down. It didn't look great. And that's not me saying anything about Stroud. That's not me saying he's a bad quarterback. That's just the game state. When you don't have that run threat, you can sell out to the pass and make it difficult for the quarterback. And that's exactly what Minnesota did here. So Minnesota is now 3-0, sitting atop of the NFC North. Great things to see there. Going down the list, Eagles, Saints we touched on. Packers, Titans. If you haven't watched the NFL recap show that Carter and I did, it's out on YouTube now. We put it out about a day ago. I would recommend going and watching because we have a great conversation about Will Levis. And my personal take on the Will Levis situation is that I am not worried. He's making the throws that he needs to make. He got sacked 8 times against the Packers, and one of the fumbles lost. It was just a free rush from a linebacker that he just went completely unblocked. There's nothing you can do about that. He was sacked 8 times. The pick 6 that he had was a great defensive play. Jair Alexander read that pass great. The pass was on target. Was it a bad decision? Yeah, I'll admit that. Will Levis is not known to make the best decisions. But what I didn't see from Will Levis this game that I saw in the first 2 games were the desperation trying to extend plays and then forcing turnovers. I'm sacked. Let me try to get the ball out to not take a sack. Will Levis getting sacked 8 times is almost a good thing for Will Levis. It's showing us that he is maturing in his decision-making. Now, the defense didn't look great. The fact that we let Malik Willis score, they scored 30 points, but you have the pick 6, so we'll say 23 points. Not great. And I understand that there are a lot of stats out there that, once you start 0-3, it's very tough to make the playoffs. But this is a Titans team that I will be looking to buy on. The first 2 games, obviously, if you take away those dumb turnovers, they win those. And we caught a bad game against the Packers. And it's very blatant the Packers still don't trust Willis to throw. Only 19 pass attempts. Granted, he didn't have to throw the ball a whole lot because they got up early. But still not worried about the Titans. When you lose the turnover battle 3-0, what are you supposed to do? Right? And that's kind of where the Titans found themselves. Chargers, Steelers, really a gross game there. Justin Fields looked pretty good. Defense was stout for both sides. And then you have Justin Herbert, who re-injures his ankle, and who knows who we're going to see at quarterback for Los Angeles. You also have the Chargers, who are going to be missing their left and right tackle. They're going to be missing key parts of that offensive line. It's not looking great for them against the Chiefs next week. Broncos, Bucks, we finally see some of that Baker regression that I think we have all been expecting. Shout out Nick Giffen at Action Network, the luck rankings. He actually had the Denver Broncos as the unluckiest team and the Buccaneers as the second luckiest. And the Broncos win outright. Now, am I confident enough to sit here and say, I think the Broncos are good? No. But I do think that this was some long overdue regression for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Baker Mayfield. And I think we will see more of that moving forward. Carolina Panthers, Andy Dalton, the Red Rocket, comes in and beats the Las Vegas Raiders. Gardner Minshew gets benched. We see Aiden O'Connell towards the end of that game. What do we think about the Panthers? I do a show with Panthers fans, and at first they were like, oh, no, we need to tank. We need to lose to draft. And then all of a sudden Andy Dalton wins them a game. They're like, oh, we're back. We're back. Andy Dalton looked good, and I think this is Dave Canales being able to resurrect the careers of veteran quarterbacks. Like we said on the show, Geno, Baker. I thought he was going to do it with Bryce Young, but maybe it's just veteran quarterbacks, and it's not the young guys. I don't know. But the Panthers will host the Bengals next week, who had a rough outing last night. Dolphins, Seahawks, not much to touch on there. The Seahawks look great, but they also really haven't played anybody. They've played the Patriots, Broncos, and a Tua-less Dolphins. They will have their first real test against the Lions this week. We touched on the Lions. We touched on the Ravens. We touched on 49ers, Falcons. Bills, Jags last night. I watched the first half, and then I just completely switched it to Bengals, Commanders. The Bills absolutely dominated. Jags are now 0-3. What are the Jags supposed to do? Like they have not looked good. Trevor Lawrence has not looked good. Now the Bills are a great team, and on offense, the Bills were just humming. They were completely humming. Bills win that one 47-10. And then we have the big upset of the night. The Bengals lose by 5, 38-33 to the Washington Commanders. Jaden Daniels looked amazing. And if you keep tabs on this show, you know that the one unit that I worry about with the Bengals is their defense. Specifically their rush defense. It wasn't great last year, and they are really struggling this year. No one would have thought the Bengals would have started 0-3. And especially losing to the Commanders. Jaden Daniels looked amazing. That offense looked really good. Jaden Daniels was extending plays, playing to his strengths, a couple touchdown passes, and the Commanders win. I don't know what I make of this game, to be completely honest. I don't think the Bengals are bad. I think the defense there's some legitimate worries there. But the Commanders' offense, man, it looked good. It even looked good at the end of their game last week against... who'd they play last week? Let me see. No, that was week 1. Giants. They won 21-18. 7 field goals, actually. So the offense didn't look that great. But promising things from the Commanders. They're now 2-1 with a win against the Cincinnati Bengals. And win against the Giants and the Bengals, lost to the Buccaneers. So I think that's all the games to recap. As per usual, we will go through the Wilkerson rankings. Let me share my screen. Hopefully this works okay. Make this a little bigger. Man, my computer is hot. I bet this is not going. Oh, I got to do the home. Review. Okay, there we go. This is, per usual, if you're new to this is the Wilkerson rankings. I do this every week. Let me go ahead. I don't think I've sorted since since Monday Night Football. So let me go ahead and sort. Total values, largest, smallest. Yep. Okay. I'm going to look at column Q still using our priors from the 2023 season. These Wilkerson ratings, these are my top 5 teams. We have the Bills at number 1, 49ers at number 2, Seahawks at number 3, Chiefs number 4, Saints number 5. Add context to this, right? The Saints lose to the Eagles by 3. They blow out a couple teams. This is purely just based on the scores of the game. So add your own context as you see fit. This is just a starting point, and this is how I determine what I think the lines should be for a given game. Bottom 5. We have the Raiders, Giants, Jags, Bears, Panthers. All seem fair, right? All seem fair. You have the Raiders who beat the Ravens. Maybe you could argue something different there. Jags are 0-3, Bears are 1-2, Panthers are 1-2, Giants are 1-2, Raiders are 1-2, I believe. So, and then you have the Titans and the Broncos on the outside looking in, or on the inside looking out, however you want to do that. So those are the Wilkerson rankings. What we are going to do now, we are going to go through. Let's see. I'm going to stop sharing that and start sharing this. Let's see. It's a little small. Let me make it bigger. Okay. All right. Let me change my notes from my recap to preview. And how this setup is, I can only share one screen at a time, but on my other screen, I have the rankings pulled up, and I also have the spreads that I make for each game. And I will touch on those. But if you're wondering where I'm getting those from, it's literally on the other side of the screen that you guys can't see. So Thursday Night Football, you have the Dallas Cowboys and the New York Giants. Both rush defenses allowing over 5 yards per play. I think this is going to be a game that's going to be played on the ground. The clock is going to be running the whole time. Dallas defenses looked bad, but they lead the league in pressure rate. And I think that is important to note here, because the Giants' offensive line wasn't great last year. It hasn't been great this year. I love Dallas here. I think this is a great spot to buy on Dallas. You have the loss against the Ravens at home. You have not famous, but Dak saying, go ahead and jump off the train. Dak, if you're watching, I know you're a watcher. I'm not jumping off the train. I'm just not doing it. I'm going to stay on the Dallas Cowboys train. The defense has been missing Deron Bland. Once they get him back, I think he's out 6 to 8 weeks. That'll be a different story too. I am buying on the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas minus 4.5 against this Giants team. I understand, but Dylan, home dog, home division, or I think the Giants are home. Yeah, home divisional dog. You just said with the Rams, that's a great spot to be in. Completely different situation. The Rams, it's a good situation to be in because you have McVay, you have Matt Stafford. I'm taking Dallas here, away, divisional favorite, awful spot, but I think we have a good angle here, and I think this is a great opportunity to buy on a Dallas team that looked awful in the game of the week. Best kicker in the league, too, Brandon Aubrey. Denver, let's go here. So we are taking Dallas minus 4.5. I'll run through all the picks at the end. Broncos and the Jets, like I said, Rodgers, no turnover-worthy plays, really impressive. But when you look at Rodgers' track record, it's not really surprising. He takes very good care of the football. He doesn't like to make risky throws, both allowing less than 5 yards per play, top 10 in the league, both top 3 in red zone conversion rate allowed. That's touchdowns in the red zone. Under 38.5 here. This is one, we want to talk about the Jets' offense, how good it looked against the Patriots, and that's fine. The defense is really good, guys. And I think the Broncos defense might be better than what we're giving them credit for. I love the under here, under 38.5, which is readily available. We will be taking that. Bengals, Panthers, I'm staying away from this one because PFF grades are not yet in for the Monday night games. But I think if you trust Andy Dalton here, there's no problem with taking the Panthers. And maybe even the over. As much as it's weird to say, this Bengals defense is not good. And Andy Dalton proved to us last week he could sling it. So no official picks there. Follow CarterCast on Twitter. Follow me on Twitter at Wilkerson A. Dillon. And we will, any picks that I give, I will put in the thread of this live stream once we are done. But nothing there for now. We have the Eagles and the Buccaneers. You have the Buccaneers, I believe, bounced the Eagles in the playoffs last year in the wild card round. Let me get to my notes real quick because I kind of got them mixed up here. Defensively, you have Vita Vea that's questionable for the Buccaneers. We don't know if he's going to play. Philadelphia defensively, just looking at the unit, outmatches the Buccaneers. I think their offensive line will hold up extremely well against this Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush. I think that the market has bottomed out on the Eagles. I don't like their coach. I think he's a silly guy, but the Eagles' defense will be enough to keep them in this game. And I understand it hasn't looked good, but they have the guys, and they will outmatch Tampa Bay. I like the Eagles here minus 2.5. I will be taking that. I need to go ahead and circle that so I don't forget when I run all the way back through. But I like the Eagles here minus 2.5. I understand. I think we see some major regression from the Buccaneers as well. We saw it early last week. I think the Buccaneers were playing way over their head in week 1 and 2, and they start to come back down to earth a little bit. Rams Bears. The Bears are a 2.5, 3-point favorite. This is your stoppable force meets a movable object type game. You have Chicago, who's averaging a league worst yards per play, and you have the Rams, who are allowing the most yards per play. So you have bad offense versus bad defense in terms of explosivity. Both are bottom 3 in rush yards per play. We're not going to take anything here, but this is truly a stoppable force meets a movable object, and which one is going to let the other one through, right? Who knows? But nothing for that game. Rams being a 3-point underdog to the Bears is absolutely crazy, but I can't bet it because of the injuries and everything. Saints-Falcons divisional matchup. The Falcons are coming off back-to-back Sunday Night Football games. If you want primetime games, get Kirk Cousins. Sign Kirk Cousins because obviously he's the guy that's moving the needle here. You have the Saints as a 2-point underdog, away divisional dog. The Falcons' defense is a little concerning. I thought this defense was going to be better coming into the season, but they're forcing the second lowest pressure rate. The Falcons' left side of the offensive line is going to have a rough time with Granderson, with the Saints' right edge. It's not going to be pretty. The Saints' O-line has looked better than we expected so far. Got to keep an eye on McCoy, the center for the Saints. If he plays, this is a completely different situation. I would say go ahead and play the Saints. But keep an eye out. He's currently questionable. Again, follow on Twitter. I will post it in the thread of the picks. Patriots 49ers. Week 4. If you're going to give me, sorry, I did not skip to that on here. Week 4, you're going to give me a double-digit dog. I'm taking it. I don't care who they're playing. I don't care who's injured. I am taking the Patriots here. I'm taking the Patriots plus 10.5. I think I make this a, let's see. Again, I'm looking at the spreadsheet on my other screen. 49ers is a 4-point favorite here. So. No, I'm sorry, 5-point favorite. 5-point favorite. So I love the Patriots here. I'm going to take you're going to give me 10.5 points. That's just absolutely silly. Let me go back up here. Jacksonville, Houston. Again, this is a game I don't have any plays on because PFF grades are not in for the Monday Night Football game, so I'm going to stay away here. Follow, keep an eye on that thread if you want to see what I end up playing. Houston didn't look great when they didn't have the run threat, but Jacksonville looked awful. They looked awful last night. You have the Vikings and the Packers. Let me go to my notes here. Both teams offensively averaging over 6 yards per play. They've looked great on offense. Both of these teams have. Minnesota plays slow, 59 plays per game. If they can dictate the pace here, I don't see why the Vikings would be a 2.5-point dog to Green Bay. Unless there's weather or something that I don't know about. But I did play the Vikings plus 2.5. I love the Vikings here. I think offensively, we've talked about it. Sam Darnold's looked great. I am playing the Vikings. Steelers, Colts. This is... the Steelers and Colts defenses so far have looked great. Steelers allowing the lowest third down rate in the league, 21.9%, and the lowest red zone conversion. I would lean the Steelers here because of the defense. Anthony Richardson, again, we talked about how if it's not 30 yards down the field, it hasn't looked great. So I'm not going to take anything with this game, but the Steelers wouldn't surprise me. Washington, Arizona, again, we are going to Wait on this one. There's no PFF grades in. Kansas City, Los Angeles. I love the home divisional dog, but you have the Chargers whose offensive line is banged up. I think they're missing both tackles. And Herbert's likely not playing quarterback. There's part of me that trusts Harbaugh and Minter in this defense to keep them in this game. So I am going to take the home divisional dog. Given the injury issues, it might come back to bite me in the butt. But I think that this defense has looked much improved with Jesse Minter. I will be taking I will be taking the Chargers plus 7.5 plus 8 there. Browns Raiders, absolutely disgusting game. This might be nap game of the week if you watch the actual CarterCast show. Not a fan here. Obviously, it's hard to say anything because Antonio Pierce said we might be making a change at quarterback. So are we getting Gardner Minshew? Are we getting Aiden O'Connell? We don't know. So stay away here. And then I think that takes us to no, never mind. Buffalo, Baltimore. This game, I said I was hitting the panic button on the Ravens, but the Ravens are 1.5 point favorite here. The Bills' O-line is the 7th worst rated run block offensive line, and the Ravens' rush defense has been great. I don't see how the Bills get anything going on the ground. And we saw a similar thing with the Texans is when you can't get something going on the ground, you're forced to make throws. It causes you to make some errors. And Josh Allen is known for those turnovers. He looked great last night, but he has a history of these turnovers. The Ravens are allowing a league-leading 2.8 rush yards per attempt. Great time to buy on the Ravens, and they're going to have the rest advantage as well. So, love this spot for the Ravens. We are going to take the Ravens -2. Actually, I think I'm going to go money line -130 and lay the juice there. I love this spot for the Ravens. This is everybody's going to want to take the Bills because of the blowout win and how good they looked. Get the Ravens here. Go ahead and get the Ravens. Tennessee, Miami. It's tough because I'm a Tennessee fan. Miami's offensive line has looked good. I don't trust Tennessee to create any pressure. It's hard to say anything, again, with QB troubles for Miami. Like, we're probably going to get Boyle. If not, it's Thompson. And I can't use any data there because they haven't. It's a small sample size. So we're going to pass on that one and just hope that Tennessee wins as a Tennessee Titans fan. And then, huge game, the one that everybody's probably going to be watching on Monday night. You have the Seahawks and the Lions. There is a huge mismatch here on the offensive line for Seattle against Hutchinson. You have Hutchinson lining up at defensive left edge, and the right side of the line, the offensive line for Seattle is going to struggle. But Geno's blind side will be well protected. I am officially bought in on the Seahawks defense. Coming into this year, the question was, can Mike Macdonald make that big of a difference for the Seahawks defense that has struggled in years past? And the answer is yes. We have seen that so far. I understand they've only played the Broncos. They've only played the Patriots. I'm blanking on the other team. But this Detroit Lions offense has not looked great this year. And we even talked about it against the Cardinals. Like, they could not put this game on ice when they were asked to. I like the Seahawks here. I think this is the game where we see from the Seahawks, these guys can be contenders. They're currently sitting atop of the NFC West. And when they beat the Lions, it's going to be, these guys could actually make a run in the playoffs. Their defense looks much improved. And I haven't seen anything from the Lions this year offensively that makes me think, this is the Lions of years past. So I'm going Seahawks here. I'm also going under 47. I think this total's too high, especially given the fact that the Lions defense is much improved from last year, and it seems that the offense has not performed to the Detroit Lions standard. So going under, and I'm going Seahawks plus 4.5. So plus 4.5 under. Sorry, I should have been on that screen for the whole time. So let me go with all the picks. I will also tweet these out. So if you're like, I missed them, don't worry. I will tweet them out. We're going Patriots plus 10.5 against the 49ers. We're going Chargers plus 8 against the Chiefs. We're going the Eagles minus 2.5 against the Bucks. Ravens money line against the Bills. Vikings plus 2.5 against the Packers. Broncos, Jets under 38.5. The Cowboys -4.5. Thursday Night Football against the Giants. And the Seattle Seahawks +4.5 against the Lions. And Seahawks Lions under 47. Those are the picks for this week. And with that being said, we'll wrap up the show. I appreciate you guys watching. 7-7-1 on the season. 6-2 last week. Great showing last week. This is when we start getting more data. We have an idea about these teams, so be sure to keep tuning in. Go watch our NFL recap if you haven't yet on YouTube or X. And coming this week, we will have our college football preview. We'll be previewing Alabama, Georgia, a huge game. We will also be previewing, I think, Louisville, Notre Dame, and a couple other big games, Illinois, Penn State. And also keep an eye out for our full NFL Week 4 preview that will be out Thursday. CarterCast, SeatGeek. They have partnered with us. Be sure to use SeatGeek code CarterCast for $20 off, I believe, your purchase. I have not done the ad reads before, so I hope that's correct. If you are curious, go watch another episode as well. Carter does a much better job of explaining it. So thank you guys for watching. I will roll the outro here for a second or two, and have a great week.